Welcome to Grape and Wine TV. I'm Kimberly Huntermark, and today we're going to walk you through something very exciting in Niagara, harvest. After an incredible summer here, we're now in September and we're beginning what will be 2 months of amazing vineyard experiences. Join us for Grape and Wine TV. During our recent adventures in harvest here in Niagara, we had opportunities to meet a couple of our favorite people. Lydia Tomac from Hernders in St. Catharines and Jeff Huntermark, one of my personal favorite people at Marinison Estates in Niagara-on-the-Lake. Both have lots to offer, lots of insight, and a lot of really great information about vineyards here in Niagara.
Harvest is great. So far we've picked our Chardonnay and Riesling and things are looking really nice out there. We're extremely selective on what we picked and brought into the wineries because here at Hernders we're always focused on the highest quality and we make sure that only the best fruit is processed and brought into our tanks.
When we visited Lydia, she couldn't have been more excited about this year's Cabernet Franc.
Well, I'm keeping my fingers crossed right now. The Cabernet Franc that is hanging out there is looking really awesome. The flavors are great. The color development is superb. So what I'm hoping is that we can probably let it hang a little longer, probably till the end of October, so that when we bring it in, we'll get really ripe flavors of strawberry, a little bit of jammy notes, and excellent color.
Harvest in Niagara actually takes place over the course of a couple of months, usually between September and November, and then we gear up for the ice wine harvest. Lydia is going to explain a little bit about what harvest looks like in a typical season here in Niagara.
Harvesting typically starts the second week of September, especially for making our sparkling wines. That's then followed by our early ripening vinifera, and it usually takes about another 6 weeks to get all of the fruit in.
One of the really cool things that you get to see when you're in Niagara during harvest is the mechanical harvester. As the tractor straddles the vines, it shakes the berries into bins, which are then transferred to the production area where the crushing to stemming happens, and then the true magic of winemaking takes place.
We have our own grape harvester and we go straight out there and we can make that decision first thing in the morning, be there in an hour, and we could essentially pick about 25 acres in 2 hours with our harvester. The harvester, when you see the harvester move through the vineyard, it kind of looks like a gigantic transformer going through. Pretty much what you have are these little shaker bars that run, as you run the harvester, you're going just between the vines. So as these shaker vines shake a little, the berries will fall off the vine, and there's little collectors and conveyors that then carry the berries up to these special hoppers that collect them on the top of the harvester.
Some wineries choose to harvest by hand. It is time-consuming, but needed.
And that would be for our super high-end reds, if we're harvesting a younger vineyard, and if we're going to do whole cluster pressing. With whole cluster pressing, sometimes that is a more gentler extraction of the juice. Also by hand harvesting, you can go out there and it's a great way to select the best fruit straight off the vine and just bring in the greatest fruit that you can.
Niagara is a unique wine region. We are classified as a cool climate area. And this is because of the escarpment, the Great Lakes, and Lydia adds,
our beautiful warm summers and our nice cool autumn nights, we're able to produce the highest quality of fruit with great expression of aromatics, good acidity, and wonderful color development.
Niagara wineries offer tours and tastings, and of course when you visit us in September,
around the third week in September, we have something that's really great called the Niagara Grape and Wine Festival. And that's a great opportunity for people from out of town and all over to come down to Niagara and sort of get a glimpse of what we do here. And sometimes with some of the tours that happen at a lot of these wineries and special events, folks have the chance to see some of the fruit come in and actually see how it's processed. I know that sometimes when I'm back there, we'll have a great big tour bus and they'll be just so surprised at how many grapes are just being dumped into our hopper, and they see it go through the destemmer and into the press, and it's just a really great experience for everyone.
one of the best times of year to visit Niagara is during harvest. Right now, we have the privilege of visiting Marenisson Estate Wineries in Niagara-on-the-Lake, home of the oldest Cabernet Sauvignon vines in Canada. Right now, winemaker Jeff Hundertmark, and yes, happens to be my husband, is testing the juice of the Cabernet Sauvignon grapes to see their level of ripeness. Now, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about this vineyard and how special it is?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the original vineyard planted by John Marenisson back in 1978. These are the oldest Cabernet Sauvignon vines. This block here, planted back in 1978, the oldest commercial planting.
And these Cabernet Sauvignon grapes that I'm looking at right now are at about 17 to 18 bricks.
Actually, just checked them this morning, and you can look at them now. They're about actually forming about 19 bricks now. Now that's just a random sampling, but when I take it into the lab and look at it later, they probably will sit around 17, 18 degrees bricks.
And when will we actually be harvesting these grapes?
These still have a way to go. We're sitting now in September, probably late October, early November, we'll be picking the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Now, looking at this rootstock, this wasn't originally from Canada, or was it grafted? Tell us a little bit about
what
this.
We have, this is the what's called the crown here, and if you can see down in here, the rootstock is actually down below the crown. So this is the native North American rootstock that protects the vine against phylloxera and a few other things that are in our ground here. On that is grafted in this particular case, a Cabernet Sauvignon vine. I mean, it could be a Gewürztraminer or a Chardonnay or Merlot or something else, but in this particular case, it's Cabernet Sauvignon. So this is the actual graft union right here, where the Cabernet Sauvignon vine meets the rootstock. So this gives you an indication, if you look at that crown, how old this vine is. This vine was planted back in 1978.
Now, when John Marenisson actually planted these Cab Sauv vines, a lot of other wineries in the area thought that he was taking a big risk and gamble. Why was that?
People thought he was crazy, to be honest with you. The Cabernet Sauvignon vine, the tender fruit varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon, the Syrah, Sauvignon Blanc, those types of grape varieties have a hard time over the winter time. So they, even though they grow very nicely in our temperate climate in the summertime, in harsh winters they have a hard time. So Cabernet Sauvignon was always considered to be a tender fruit, very susceptible to winter damage and spring frosts, and also actually fall frosts, which we may have problems with this year. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, we don't. But so that's the reason why they thought that he was a bit crazy. But when he went over to Europe and got these vines and had them brought back over, he chose Cabernet Sauvignon, Gewürztraminer, which you can see over here. Those were planted in 1976, and the Merlot past that is planted in 1976 as well. We also have Chardonnay planted in 76, and Gamay as well.
So going into harvest here at Marenisson, you do use machine harvesting, correct?
Yep, we do. All the work in the vineyard is done by hand. We have a crew of guys that have been doing the work in the vineyard since long before Marenisson became a commercial winery. So they go through and do all the hand work, and then at harvest time we go through with a machine and mechanically harvest these vines.
So the philosophy of the Marenisson Estates is the best fruit, not a lot of manipulation in the vineyard, very organic almost to a sense.
Yeah, well, you can see by looking around, we don't take a lot of, we don't use a lot of pesticides, we don't use a lot of sprays to maintain things. A lot of the weed removal, that sort of thing, is done by hand, is done by mowing. It's not done by chemical sprays. So although we're not an organic winery, we definitely do things in a minimalistic way.
And how many tons per acre will these Cabernet Sauvignon vines produce, and what does that equal to in bottles?
That's a good question. The Cabernet Sauvignon vines that we have here produce about 1.5 tons of grapes per acre with the Cabernet Sauvignon. The other grapes in the vineyard go up to about 2 tons per acre, but these Cabernet Sauvignon vines, they're mature, they're not as fruitful, and then once we go through very shortly, actually in the next week or so before the guys head home, we'll clean up some of this fruit and pull out some of the bunches that won't get ripened to the level we want, which will drop the yield down to about 1.5 tons per acre.
So it's fair to say that these premium grapes do produce some of Niagara's most premium red wines, and that's one of the things that Marinison is known for, and one of the things that we can look forward to probably in spring 2013.
Yep, these probably summer 2013.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Grape and Wine TV as we've explored Niagara's harvest and the beginning of a truly spectacular vintage. We'll see you next time.